Hello, Michael Tyler here, and welcome to another free Vectric project of the month. This month's project is called the Lovebirds Arborglyph. It's designed to look like a section of a tree with a heart-shaped arborglyph carved through the bark and two cute lovebirds nuzzling on a branch for a unique display of affection. This will make a great gift for anniversaries, engagement announcements, weddings, birthdays, and of course, Valentine's Day. You can customize the carved initials to anything you like using any suitable font you have. The one used in the sample is called Mandingo, and it's a free font that can be downloaded from dafont.com. I used the Vectric Aspire software to create all the models for the birds, the bark, and the branches, and then I exported a single merged STL model for import into Vcarve. So this project is compatible with both Vcarve and Aspire software. Some of the features used in the software when designing this project included the importing of a bitmap, the create shape, the rail sweep, sculpting, vector texture, the drawing and node editing tools, snapping features, and the interactive trim, in other words, the scissors tool. This project includes printed PDF instructions, and it leads you through step by step. Along with this video and the PDF instructions, you'll be able to create this project for yourself. If you want to have a go at making this project yourself, you can download the files from your V&Co account, and you can find a link for that below. If you do make your own version, please feel free to share that on the Vectric forum and across social media. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe for instant updates on new project videos we release. So please enjoy the rest of the video and have fun. Happy carving! I'm in the process of sealing the Arborglyph Lovebird plaque, and I'm using a mixture of Zinsser Seal Coat, which is just a 100% de-waxed clear shellac, and mixing that with an equal amount of denatured alcohol. And that gives me a good sealer that can be used for a pre-stain conditioner. It's also great for raising any remaining fuzzies or raising the grain a little bit, so you can sand it after it's dry and remove any stray fuzzies that you might have hanging around there. So this will be the initial finish process. I do plan to apply some acrylic paints and a glaze overall to this. And so I want to seal the wood, make sure it's nice and smooth before I start applying the acrylic paints and glaze and so on. I've applied a couple coats of the thinned Zinsser Seal Coat and then gone ahead and re-sanded just to make sure everything's nice and smooth, get all the fuzzies off. I'm going to go ahead and further seal this with just straight Zinsser Seal Coat. And normally I pour off some of this into a separate container, but this can is almost gone, so I'm just going to go straight from the can. And I'll go ahead and apply a coat of straight Seal Coat, which, as I already mentioned, is simply 100% de-waxed clear shellac. So I'll apply one coat, allow that to dry, and maybe apply another coat just to further seal this before I apply any paint or glazing technique. Now, if I were going to go ahead and just stain this, which would be perfectly fine, I would have stopped at just the thin seal coat and final sanding and gone ahead and applied a stain. So depending on the wood that you're using, if you're cutting this out of walnut or mahogany or something like that, or maple, you might just want to skip the staining process and go straight to a final coat, oil coat or any clear coat of your choice. In this case though, since I'll be applying the paints and glaze, I want to seal this wood really well and allow that to dry, check it over, and see if I need any further coats before proceeding on with the rest of the finishing process. Okay, so that's one coat right there of the full strength seal coat. Let that dry and take another look and see if I need to apply another coat. I've allowed the seal coat, the 100% full strength seal coat, to dry, and then I lightly sanded with some 400 grit sandpaper, just very lightly, blew off the dust. I decided to go ahead and seal this further with some Krylon Gloss crystal clear spray, and then follow it up with the flat crystal clear spray, and that's just to give a little bite to the acrylic paints and the glaze that I'm going to apply after this dries. So I've already coated the bottom and the top with the gloss crystal clear, and I'm just going to go ahead and put a few light coats, very light coats of the flat over the top of that. Okay, I'm all done sealing the Arborglyph and ready to apply some color with some acrylic craft paints. So I've sealed everything off, and I'm going to apply some craft paints to the bark and branch areas, and also add some color to the birds. I'll leave this area here natural. And of course, you don't have to do this step. You can just stop and stain it and wipe it off, or leave it a natural wood, whatever you prefer. But I'm going to go ahead and add some color. And to help me with the coloring of the birds, these are called peach-faced lovebirds, and they come in a variety of colors. So I went on the internet and I just found a few pictures for reference as I apply the color. And I kind of like the idea of having one bird more green and one more yellow, so I'm going to do that. And I've just got a couple close-ups there. And you see the way that these are modeled, it sort of gives me a guideline to where I'm supposed to apply color. So with that said, I'll go ahead and get my assortment of brushes here. And I think I'll go ahead, I could start with the bark, but I think I'm going to go ahead and start with the birds. Okay, I'm just thinning this paint a little bit. I don't want to apply it too thickly, I'm just wanting to get a touch of color. And then I'm going to apply a glaze, a darker glaze overall. I think that's about right. So this one's our yellow bird, and just judging from my photos, pretty much it's all yellow except for the area of sort of that peachy red color. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint the whole bird this yellow color. And again, these paints are thinned so that grain will show through. It looks like we've got a little bit of white on that yellow bird. Let me just take another look at my reference photo. So we got a little white here on the tail. I'm going to go ahead and fudge a little bit and just put a little white right here. Let me get my white acrylic paint. Okay, I've got bird number 1 painted, and now I'm looking for bird number 2. And pretty much same thing, it's mostly green, and then has that peachy head color there. I'm going to probably incorporate some of this blue down here, so we'll try that. I've got a couple greens here. I've got a pastel green and a brighter green, and a little bit of blue. Okay, that's bird number 1 and number 2, and you can see I did a little bit of change on this bird number 1. I noticed in my photo that the yellow is actually more towards the back. In fact, I think I'm going to add a little bit of yellow back here. And it had more of that peachy hood color, so I wasn't paying attention. You can paint these any color you want to. There's no rule. I'm just following these photos here, these reference photos. Okay, I think I'll stop there, let that dry, and then I'll apply the bark colors and go on from there. Okay, the birds are dry, and I'm going to go ahead and apply some bark type colors. So I've got a light brown. I'll just squirt on the paper plate. Sort of a beige color, then I've got a more of a medium brown, and I'll put some gray and some white. I'm planning on using a dark brown for a glaze, so I'm not going to bother with painting a dark brown on here. And the dark brown, once it's applied, is going to accentuate all the details in the birds and bark and so on. So I'm going to leave this center section natural, and I'm just going to randomly apply this bark type paint. A little gray there, and get some white in there too, just for highlights. You don't have to be careful during this process either. It goes fairly quickly. Okay, we'll let that dry, and then we'll come back and seal it and then apply a glaze over it. Okay, I'm in the process of applying a few light coats of the Krylon Gloss Clear Spray. And that's just to seal the dried acrylic paint before I apply the thin dark brown glaze over the top of all that. So I'll just continue putting a few light coats on here, very light, just to seal that paint, and then we'll apply the glaze. Okay, the sealant is all dry, the Krylon Clear over all the paint, so that's ready to apply the glaze on. So I'm going to use some of this acrylic burnt umber paint. It's a water-based paint, and I'll thin that down to squirt some on a paper plate. And I've got an old brush that's somewhat stiff. That's on purpose. So we'll dilute this a little bit, and I'm going to apply this over the entire plaque. This water-based paint dries fairly quickly, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe off this section right now. You can see how that brings out some of that detail, the carving detail. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put some on the birds, and I'll do a final wipe off, so I'm not worried about getting fingerprints on here right now. Just wiping off this brush and do sort of a dry brush over it where I think it needs a little help with the removal of the glaze. Like right in here, I'm just taking some of that out of the crevices. And I think I'll put a little more glaze on this bark here, just to accentuate that a little bit more. And I'll put a little bit more of this brown inside the eyes. Just to enhance that detail, and a little bit in that mouth there. Okay, I think that's ready to let dry, and then we'll come back and finish it up with some clear coats. The paint's all dry, so I'm ready to put on the final clear coats. I'll start with some Krylon clear gloss, and then follow that up with the satin, just to take off some of that shininess. So I'll just apply a few light coats of the gloss, and then follow that up, and we'll be done with the finishing process. Okay, I'm just finishing installing these small brass triangle hangers, and made a pilot hole with an awl and waxed up the Phillips head screws just to make them easier to drive in. So that completes this month's project, the Lovebirds Arborglyph. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next month, this is Michael Tyler signing off for now. We'll see you next month with another free Vectric project of the month. Happy carving!